All right, so the San Francisco 49ers have signed an intriguing former second-round pick at the wide receiver position, and also San Francisco's practice squad has been finalized. We're getting to all of that on today's 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, breaking the news this afternoon that former Panthers wide receiver Terrace Marshall is signing with the Niners. I did not see this one coming just because San Francisco is so deep at the wide receiver position and the intrigue behind the player. He was a second-round pick out of LSU in 2021, and he's only 24 years old. Now, the popular reaction after the Niners made this move from Niner fans was, oh my goodness, this means that San Francisco is going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. Hold your horses. The Niners do practice this afternoon at the SAP Performance Center in Santa Clara. There are some expectations. There's been some talk that Aiyuk, number 11, will be on the practice field. We'll certainly see. I don't think the signing of Terrace Marshall signals that Brandon Aiyuk is going to get dealt. It is important to note as well that the 49ers are signing him to the practice squad. They're not signing him to the active roster. So San Francisco, deep at that wide receiver position on the active roster, this doesn't change anything on that front. More on Marshall here. He's 24 years old, as I mentioned. Pretty good size at 6'2", 200 pounds. In 2021, 59th overall pick out of LSU in the NFL draft by Carolina, and that's where he's spent his entire NFL career from 2021 up until roster cuts here. And he was a surprise cut by Carolina because of the pedigree, because of what he's shown on tape from time to time. This was looked at as a make or break year for him, and he had a pretty good summer, a pretty good training camp. With this new regime led by Dave Canales, who used to be the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Carolina moving forward without him and ushering in this new era. They're trying to get Bryce Young on track. They spent a bunch of financial capital along the offensive line. They're still a little bit light at that wide receiver spot, although Adam Thielen did have more than 1,000 yards last year, but they could not do anything on the offensive side of the football, which is why they're going with a young, innovative offensive mind in Canales, who did a great job with getting Baker Mayfield back on track last year. Last year, there was some drama between Marshall and Carolina, and a lot of people believe that that was the beginning of the end. He was granted a trade request. He ended up not getting dealt. That's kind of awkward, right? So there were frustrations from both sides, and from Marshall's standpoint, he gets a fresh start. And he goes from Carolina, which over the last several years, really since the end of Cam Newton's prime, they've been one of the worst organizations in the entire NFL. San Francisco, on the other hand, has been one of the best organizations in the NFL. 7 NFC championship games in 14 years for the Niners, including 4 of the last 5 years when they've made it to an NFC title game and 2 Super Bowls during that stretch. And you go from an unproven commodity, a head coach, and last year Frank Reich, to Kyle Shanahan on this squad. It's just an opportunity for Marshall to hopefully get his career going. As for why he struggled so bad up to this point in his NFL career, I think there are a lot of factors for that. Bad quarterback play, a bad organization, no structure from David Tepper, who will lash out on fans on social media and in person, to head coach, general manager. They've had an awful offensive line. Last year, they could not run the football at all. They gave Miles Sanders a lot of money, and he had his worst year of his career and just an overall bad offensive system. Now, I do think that Dave Canales is going to be able to do some good things in helping to streamline the development of Bryce Young. I just think this is a case of the organization starting anew and giving the player an opportunity to start anew as well. Here's a look at what he's done in his first 3 years in the NFL. Year 1, second-round pick out of LSU, 13 games played. He's targeted 30 times, 17 catches, 138 yards. Not the best production that you'd be looking for ideally from a second-round pick. In year 2, though, he had nearly 500 yards, 490 to be precise, with 28 catches on 47 targets. And then last year, only played 9 games, a healthy scratch for some of those, 33 targets, 19 catches, and 139 yards. Going back to the buzzword of today's show, intrigue. According to Pro Football Focus, back in 2022, Who was the highest graded wide receiver on go routes? Terrace Marshall, 97.1. So he has vertical speed. He can take the top off of the defense, and that's an intriguing skill set, buzzword, for the San Francisco 49ers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right here on the show, because when the Niners make moves, we go in depth, baby. We break it down. Closing in on 138,000 subscribers, and hopefully from time to time I can make you laugh, even though sometimes I'll hit you with some dad jokes. I'm not a dad, and no, I won't name my son Chase so that he's Chase Sr. Jr. and I'm Chase Sr. Sr. Did I make you laugh? We'll make you look fresh in these San Francisco shirts, available right now, chatsports.com/SF. They are available in red as well as black. We have sent these shirts, which have become a staple on this show, every pocket of America, internationally to Ireland, internationally to Australia. So if you want to get yours today, you see the link down below. We'll put it down attached to the pinned comment of today's Niners Report and in the description of this video. Say it with me, type it with me, San Francisco. The Niners finalizing their practice squad here on this Wednesday, August 28th. The Niners have filled up their practice squad with 16 additions and 16 signings. Let's run through all of the players who will make up the Niners 2024 practice squad. Of course, these things can change and they can become fluid and they can change on a dime at any moment. Niners bringing back multiple players who were on their 90-man roster. In fact, a lot of them were on their 90-man roster. Defensive back Chase Lucas, edge rusher Jonathan Garvin, defensive tackle Evan Anderson, safety Tracy Walker, quarterback Tanner Mordecai. Let's talk about some of these players here. Chase Lucas gives you special teams value, really good gunner. He could be elevated to the active roster early in the season if you need some special teams help. Edge rusher Jonathan Garvin didn't really play great with the Green Bay Packers, had some expectations. He goes to the UFL. He did play pretty well there as a pass rusher. I thought he flashed from time to time throughout the preseason. Defensive tackle Evan Anderson, a big body. The Niners gave him $280,000 as a UDFA. That was practice squad money. They clearly like the player. Tracy Walker, he's played in nearly 80 games in his NFL career. More than 40 starts, all through Detroit Lions. Niners a little bit light as far as safety depth because you're not sure when Talanoa Hufanga is going to be able to come back, hopefully in the first 4 weeks of the season, hopefully week 1. But if he can't, you have an insurance policy in Tracy Walker, who's been a vet in this league, and he can help you on special teams. Quarterback Tanner Mordecai. I think the Niners, by design in the preseason, did not play him a lot. Why would they do that? At the league's most important position, the quarterback position, they don't want a young player to put great production and great plays on tape, because if he weren't to make the Niners 53-man roster, which he didn't, he would be claimed on waivers by another team. And I mentioned this a couple of years ago, 2022, during Brock Purdy's rookie year. I said he played so well in the preseason, he has to be a part of the 53-man roster. Either you keep him and you let Nate Sudfeld go, or you let Nate Sudfeld go and you just keep Brock Purdy, because another team is going to scoop him up. What did the Niners do? Had him on the 53. The difference between Purdy and Mordecai as rookies is that Purdy played a lot in the preseason. So he was able to put a lot of quality, high-level play on tape. And the early indications for me, this kid can play. He's intriguing. Buzzword. Tanner Mordecai, I think he's a good athlete. He made some impressive plays in a very small sample size. Niners want to continue to develop him. Next page here of 5 players. T.Y. McGill has been with this team for a few years now. Depth piece at defensive tackle. Wide receiver Trent Taylor. David Lombardi said the Niners are bringing him back because he has a high floor. There is nothing about Trent Taylor that screams high floor. The best thing that he does not fumble punts. He's not dynamic at all, and he can't catch the football. He's one of George Kittle's best friends. That probably went a long way in him coming back to the practice squad. And if an injury were to happen at punt returner, you can elevate him, and you know he's not going to punt the football away on those punt returns. He's also not going to turn those punt returns into an explosive play. Isaac Alacron, I imagine that's going to be a part of the International Pathway program. Defensive lineman Alex Barrett, he had a really good play and a couple of really good plays throughout the preseason. Sebastian Gutierrez, another one of those International Pathway program developmental stories. Jaylen Mahoney was a UDFA safety signed by San Francisco following the draft. Tay Martin has been with this team for a few years, performed well in training camp. When it came down to the preseason, had a couple of costly drops. While the Niners did lose 6th-round pick Jarrett Kingston to the Carolina Panthers, they are able to bring back Drake Nugent, who it wouldn't surprise me if at some point in the future he's this team's starting center. I really do believe that he has a lot of ability there. Put a lot of good plays on tape at Stanford. Last year for Michigan, didn't have a lot of losses on tape, and really has a strong anchor. We mentioned Terrace Marshall getting signed to the Niners practice squad. Some of the same things that I said about Tanner Mordecai, it applies for Mason Pline. This is a former basketball player who made the switch to playing football in his college career, and you can see the basketball body, basketball frame, and basketball athleticism. He's also added a lot of muscle. He can go up and get it. We saw and called his name once in the preseason. It was on that 4th down call against the Raiders when the Niners just kind of threw it up for him in the back of the end zone. The throw was too deep into the end zone, but I saw him and I'm like, that dude looks legit as far as an athlete, and I think the Niners hid him to be able to bring him back to the practice squad. And while Cam Alatu, former 3rd-round pick from 2 drafts ago, signed with the Cleveland Browns, another tight end from that same class, Brayden Willis, is back on the practice squad. So that is your Niners practice squad, and that's some intel on the addition of Terrace Marshall. Be sure to give me a follow on social media. I'm on X at Chase_Senior, Instagram at Chase_Senior as well. Don't be a stranger. Say what's up. I put up a lot of short form content and talking about the Niners and interactive content on my social media pages.